I was looking at the scores today before we recorded. By the time you hear this, the game will be out on your Switch. I'm sure many millions of you will be playing it. I assume this is good for 25 million after 2 years, something like that. I would say. So it's gonna be a big old game. 97 is a no joke score. I saw Game Informer was trending because they gave it a 9.75, and people were freaking out about that. Is Zelda the highest quality franchise of all time? Maybe, but there's no doubt that Nintendo has their finger on the quality button and knows exactly what they're doing with games. And so we can talk about the quality franchise stuff, but I really want to know what you guys think about this game coming up and how you're going to spend if and how you're going to spend time with it. So Dustin, let's start with you. Zelda, what is it? Tears of the Kingdom, out now when everyone's hearing this. What are your thoughts?
I'm really excited just because I wasn't excited for a long time, in that I knew that they were reusing the map, which I'm not saying is necessarily a bad thing, but I guess this game was an unknown quantity for so long. And so I've not read any reviews. I've seen a couple tweets of people saying stuff, but all the things that I was concerned about it maybe being too similar to Breath of the Wild, no one seems to say is a problem. That this game is very much a sequel, very much I can't remember who. So some outlet or somebody said that Breath of the Wild now, in comparison to this game, feels like a first draft. And that's really intriguing to me.
Well, so Breath of the Wild felt like a first draft at the time, quite frankly.
Well, I don't agree with that, but
you don't think it was like a testing ground? It felt like a testing ground to me. There's so little in it.
So little in Breath of the Wild?
Absolutely. It's like a physics game, which is cool. Like, I like that, but
there's over 100 shrines. There's
but that's like mobile game. It's like a mobile game. Like, I understand what you're saying. It's like those shrines made the game feel cheap to me. Like, I was like, where are the dungeons? The real ones.
I can agree with you on that.
And apparently this one has it, which is awesome. I'm actually super excited about it. I'm stoked on it, but
I know everything about it because I read the Kotaku spoiler.
Yeah. But and it seems cool. Like, I'm totally into it because it seems like there's actually Zelda stuff in it. But like, the first game felt like it was more exploration heavy. It was like, all right, here's a physics engine where you could do all sorts of really cool things, and there are all these systems that interact in a cool way. Here are these 4 divine beasts that I found to be very, very underwhelming, and then there's like a big castle at the end that I never even fucking got to because I didn't care. Now it feels like, oh, there's actually a game here on top of the foundation that they built. I always felt like Breath of the Wild was a really, really good foundation that just didn't have enough to keep me invested.
Are you going to play this new one?
Yeah. I think so. My Switch needs something to do, quite frankly. It's what I've been saying for a while. Like, it's been sitting there so sad. so sad. It's sitting on top of my CRT right now, just like waiting to be used. And it's like, you know what? This happens once every several years that a Switch game comes out that I'm interested in. Yeah, why not?
I'm curious about the performance aspect. And I've been thinking, I think we talked about it last week about how, like, okay, well, we're okay with playing this 30 FPS Zelda game, but other, Jedi Survivor is a problem, which I can understand some people pointing out this hypocrisy, and not necessarily to me or Chris or whatever or us, but just in general. And I can understand that. I think Jedi Survivor and some of these other games have like there's a difference between, at least to me, a game dipping in lower FPS and then having consistent hitching problems, like sudden stops. That's totally different. And trust me, next week, if Zelda has horrible technical issues, I will mention it. And I've already seen some stuff that there's some parts where the frame rate dips lower than 30. And that's unfortunate for how good this game sounds, but
they made it on a toaster, so I mean, it's pretty impressive considering that.
Well, dude, seeing just some of the clips of how Zelda wow, big mistake there, how Link is flying around the world and the way that it loads in the game, pretty impressive for what they're working with on the Switch, for sure. And it's important to remember that Breath of the Wild was also released on Wii U, and not that Wii U and Switch that there's a huge difference, but there's definitely a power difference.
Oh, sure.
There. So I'm just right now. It feels good how much I've remained away from the preview coverage and away from the review, that I'm just so excited to dive in and be like, okay, I think I said this last week, but 6 years you've been working on this game and you reused a large amount of the map. What was that 6 years spent on? That's what I'm so excited to discover.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see how everyone feels about it, and we'll be tracking that over the days, weeks, months to come. It's not for me. I know people think it's a very like Collins over Nintendo thing, but the reality is that I bought a Switch and I got Zelda the day it came out and played it for about 20 hours and I just wasn't into it. There was just it's actually more to what Chris was saying, where I'm like, I don't feel like this is a Zelda game. What is this? And that's cool for a lot of people, and a lot of people like that. But the dungeon stuff is more what I'm looking for, and I know that that's here in this game. But they've already long lost me. And the destructible weapons and the climbing and fall, I was like, oh my god, this is so annoying. And it starts raining, and I'm like, oh, I can't take it. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. It's not what I loved about Zelda, and I was a big Zelda fan when I was younger.
Yeah.
But this to me is a new kind of Zelda, and I don't think that it's even the first of its kind in some sense. I mean, it is, but Skyward Sword seems to have started that more like mega big Zelda thing. Wind Waker had a huge map, but a lot of it was devoid of anything. That was part of the reason. It was like an archipelago, so it was kind of cool. But so I don't want to blame Breath of the Wild for doing what it did to Zelda. I think it started with Skyward Sword in some way, but it's just like, I'm not looking for this 100-hour, 200-hour like fucking free for all. It's like, that's not Zelda at all, in my opinion. Zelda is like a tight 10 to 20-hour game, always, until that point. So to me, Link to the Past, Majora's Mask, and the first one, even Zelda 2, I mean, these will always be champion games in my mind.